Welcome to AC 24/7. I'm Aaron Dean. On an urgent mission to stop the war between Israel and Hamas from growing into a wider conflict, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says more needs to be done to protect Palestinian civilians. The Advocate Channel's Mike Valero has the latest on the Secretary's visit.
A visibly shaken U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken evoked the brutality of Hamas's October 7th attack after viewing additional images and footage from the terror attack collected by the Israeli government.
It is striking and in some ways shocking that the brutality of the slaughter has receded so quickly in the memories of so many.
Blinken added the U.S. is pressing Israel to minimize civilian casualties in Gaza.
It matters because failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas and other terror groups.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Friday his government opposes any temporary ceasefire in Gaza unless it includes Hamas freeing all the hostages it holds.
The bill is passed.
The news comes after the Republican-led House of Representatives on Thursday passed a bill to provide $14.3 billion in aid to Israel, a move that sets up a clash with the Senate.
The Senate will not be considering this deeply flawed proposal from the House GOP, and instead, we will work together on our own bipartisan emergency aid package.
Democrats oppose the bill because it does not include aid to Ukraine and cuts funding to the IRS.
I think it's an irresponsible bill, tying support for Israel, lacking support for Ukraine, which are both vital national security interests.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
The FDA wants to ban the use of an additive found in some sodas because it can cause thyroid gland problems. The FDA says brominated vegetable oil, or BVO, is no longer considered safe after animal studies. BVO is used mostly in citrus-flavored beverages. California banned BVO last month. The ingredient is already banned in Europe and Japan. 1 in 4 middle and high school students who use e-cigarettes use them on a daily basis. That's according to the 2023 National Youth Tobacco Survey from the Food and Drug Administration and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The survey also showed e-cigarette use is down by about 4% amongst high schoolers. That drop contributed to an overall decline in the use of any tobacco products among high schoolers. For middle schoolers, the survey indicates a 2% increase in the overall tobacco use. Well, the planet is heating up faster than predicted. That's according to a new alert from the scientists who first warned about climate change decades ago. James Hansen, a director at the Earth Institute at Columbia University, says the planet will likely surpass key global warming levels this decade. According to research from Hansen and a dozen other scientists, global warming will exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius this decade. It will exceed 2 degrees Celsius before 2050. Their work is published in the journal Oxford Open Climate Change. Target is offering a cheaper alternative for Thanksgiving dinner for 4, and that's just coming in at about $25. It includes a 10-pound turkey, potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce, stuffing mix, and gravy. Walmart's also offering 2 cheap holiday meal deals as well. One you cook from scratch and a ready-to-bake option. Meanwhile, Aldi is also lowering prices of over 70 items by up to 50%. Well, 80 birds with racist or offensive names are getting new ones. Bird experts say that many birds share names with white men who, quote, have objectively horrible pasts, end quote. For example, the Hammond's flycatcher is named for William Alexander Hammond, a former U.S. Surgeon General who held racist views about both black and indigenous people. The renaming project will start next year. And thanks so much for joining us for AC 24/7. For more, go to theadvocatechannel.com and subscribe to the Advocate Channel YouTube page. For the Advocate Channel, I'm Aaron Dean.